Hi everyone, my name is Elena Brooks.
I'm 34 years old.
On my wedding day, my sister arrived in a floor-length white dress.
My mother kept calling her the other bride.
And by the time I found her sitting beside my husband at the reception, while my parents waved me toward a table in the back, I already knew the marriage was not going to survive the night the way they thought it would. The first time my sister tried on white for my wedding, I laughed. That was 3 weeks before the ceremony in my mother's kitchen with garment bags on every chair and the smell of coffee burned down to bitterness because no one remembered to turn the pot off. My younger sister, Vanessa, came down the hall in a fitted ivory dress with a slit up the leg and said, "Relax, it's cream." My mother smiled at her reflection in the microwave door and said, "Honestly, if Elena's in classic white, this could be cute."
Cute. Like I was planning a brunch color palette, not a wedding. I said no.
Then calmly, clearly, not ambiguous, no white, no ivory, no champagne, no bridal-looking silhouettes.
Vanessa rolled her eyes.
Mom called me tense. My father from the table said, "No one's going to confuse your sister with the bride."
That should have reassured me.
Instead, it felt like a warning because in my family, Vanessa had always been the emergency center of attention.
Pretty in a way strangers commented on.
Loud in a way relatives mistook for charm. She had blown out my candles at my 10th birthday party, flirted with my prom date in front of me at 17, and worn a red cocktail dress to grandma's funeral because black washed her out. Every time I objected, my parents said some version of the same thing. "That's just Vanessa. Don't make it bigger."
So, I started making myself smaller. By 34, I had gotten very good at it.
My husband Ryan used to notice. That's important because when I met him, what I loved most was not that he was handsome or funny, though he was both.
It was that he paid attention. He remembered how I took my coffee. He noticed when I went quiet in rooms where my family got louder.
Once after a Christmas dinner where Vanessa spent 20 minutes telling him about the kind of woman he should have ended up with, he drove us home and said, "Your family keeps acting like you're lucky to be chosen."
I don't like that.
Neither did I, but I married him anyway with all of them sitting in the front rows because love makes you hope people will behave for one day if the event is expensive enough. The ceremony itself was beautiful. That's the part that still bothers me.
The sunlight was right. The flowers were right. Ryan's hands were warm when he held mine. My dress fit perfectly. For 22 minutes in a little stone chapel outside Asheville,
I honestly believed I had made it through the dangerous part.
Then the reception doors opened.
The ballroom was all candlelight and ivory linen and gold-backed chairs my mother insisted on because plain banquet seating kills the photos. The head table sat on a low riser in front of the dance floor. 2 seats in the center, mine and Ryan's. Only when I walked in after taking pictures with my bridesmaids, one of those seats was already occupied. Vanessa, white dress, hair pinned up with pearl combs, champagne glass in her hand, sitting beside my husband like she belonged there. For 1 second, the whole room blurred around the edges. My brain actually refused the image before my eyes accepted it. Then I saw Ryan's face. He was not smiling. He was sitting stiff, one hand flat on the table. The way people sit when they know something is wrong but haven't decided yet whether they are allowed to stop it. My parents were standing near the stage talking to the photographer. My mother saw me first and actually beamed. "There she is." Then she pointed toward a table in the back corner near the bar and almost against the wall. "Sweetheart, we put you with the bridal party girls for dinner. Vanessa looks better up front in the photos."
I thought I had misheard her. "I'm sorry."
Vanessa lifted her glass with the tiniest smile. "Mom thought the symmetry worked better this way." My father stepped in before I could say anything else, already irritated at the possibility that I might react to what was happening in front of 200 guests on my own wedding night.
"Don't be dramatic," he said. "She just looks better in pictures."
There are sentences that reveal your whole life in one blow. Not because they are new, because they are familiar enough to finally sound undeniable. My wedding coordinator, a woman named Talia, who had the exhausted eyes of someone who had seen too many rich people ruin simple things, looked from me to the table to Vanessa and very quietly said, "Would you like me to clear that seat?"
Before I could answer, my mother cut in.
No, we've arranged it this way."
Ryan stood up then. Thank God for that.
Not fast, not theatrical, just deliberate. He stepped away from the table and came toward me with an expression I had never seen on him before. Not embarrassment, not confusion. Anger, low, clean anger. "Elena," he said, "I did not agree to this."
Vanessa laughed softly behind him.
"Oh my God, are we really doing this in front of everyone?" I looked past Ryan, past my parents, past the photographer pretending not to stare, and toward the DJ booth at the edge of the dance floor. Then I took my bouquet out of my bridesmaid's hands, set it on the nearest chair, and started walking. I didn't go to the back table. I went straight to the DJ booth. The room was still loud enough that most people did not notice immediately. Glasses clinking, forks against plates, my cousin Mia laughing too hard at something near the bar. But by the time I reached the booth, enough heads had turned that the sound in the ballroom started thinning out on its own. The DJ, a man named Chris with silver headphones around his neck, looked at me and instantly understood that whatever was happening was not part of the timeline we had discussed.
"Can I help you?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I need the microphone." He handed it over without argument. That part still amazes me. Maybe it was the dress.
Maybe it was my face. Maybe it was just obvious that whatever I was about to do belonged to the bride more than the playlist did.
I turned back toward the room.
Ryan was still standing where I had left him, halfway between the head table and the
dance floor, watching me.
My parents had started moving toward me fast, their smiles gone now, their public faces slipping. Vanessa remained in my seat, one leg crossed over the other, one hand around her champagne stem like she still believed the room would return to her if she waited long enough. I tapped the microphone once. The speakers carried the sound through the ballroom like a tiny crack in glass.
Conversations died. 200 people looked at me.
"Hi," I said, and my voice came out calmer than I felt. "Before dinner starts, I just want to clarify something about the seating arrangement because apparently I was not included in the final decision."
Behind me, my mother hissed.
"Elena, don't."
I kept going.
"My sister arrived tonight in a floor-length white dress.
My mother has been calling her the other bride.
And when I walked into my own reception just now, I found her sitting in my chair beside my husband while my parents told me she looks better in pictures."
A sound went through the room. Then, not one sound, 100 small ones. Gasps. Forks set down.
Someone near the front actually said, "Oh my God."
Vanessa stood up at last.
"You are so obsessed with me."
That made me laugh into the microphone. Not because it was funny.
Because if I had not laughed, I might have cried and she would have preferred that.
My father reached for the microphone. "Give me that right now." I stepped back. "No, enough." He snapped low and furious now. "You are embarrassing us."
The words hit me with a strange kind of clarity. Us, not me, not my wedding, not what they had done, just us. The family unit, the public image, the photo line, the lie. I looked out at the crowd and said, "That seems to be the real concern." Ryan moved. Then he walked past my parents, past the photographer, and straight to the head table. He picked up the place card that had my name on it and looked at it for 1 second before turning toward Vanessa.
"You need to move." The whole room saw it.
That mattered because in my family, truth had always been easier to kill in private. Vanessa tilted her head.
"Wow. So, she really trained you well." He didn't answer her.
He just said it again, even flatter.
"Move."
My mother stepped between them.
All bright panic now.
"Ryan, sweetheart, no one meant anything by this.
We were only trying to keep the photos balanced." "Balanced? My wedding, my chair, my husband. Balanced."
I lowered the microphone and looked at her. "You moved me to the back of my own reception so my sister could sit beside my husband." She pressed her hand to her chest like she could not believe how unfairly I was interpreting the thing she had done on purpose.
"It was just dinner."
"No, I said it was the same thing you've done my whole life in a more expensive room."
That landed. Not on her, on everyone else. My Aunt Janine looked down.
My grandmother from the second table near the dance floor did not. She was staring straight at my mother with a face I had not seen since I was a teenager and accidentally told her the truth about Vanessa taking my prom date upstairs to show him the view. My grandmother knew patterns when she saw them. Ryan took my hand then in front of everyone. Simple, steady, no speech, no theatrics, just his hand finding mine and staying there. Then he looked at the room and said, "For the record, I married Elena because she is the only person in this family who doesn't need a spotlight to feel real." I heard my sister suck in a breath. My father went red so quickly it almost looked painful, but nothing matched the look on my mother's face because that was the moment she realized the room was no longer on her side. Not fully, not cleanly. You could feel it in the silence. People were no longer waiting for me to calm down. They were waiting to see what my parents would do next. My father chose badly. He pointed at me and said, "If you ruin this wedding over your insecurity, don't expect us to apologize later." I stared at him. Then I handed the microphone back to Chris. I turned to Ryan and said quietly, but into enough silence that everyone heard it anyway.
I'm not ruining it. I'm ending it before they do.
My mother actually stumbled backward a step.
Elena.
I looked at Talia, our coordinator.
Can you clear the head table? She nodded immediately.
Then I said, and remove my parents and sister from the seating chart.
That was when Vanessa lost control.
She started shouting about overreaction, about drama, about how she had done nothing wrong except be prettier and how everyone had always secretly known it. The room heard all of that, too.
Every word.
And once something ugly says itself out loud in a ballroom, it cannot really be turned back into a joke. Grandma stood up before anyone else did, sat down her napkin, looked at my mother, and said, "You should be ashamed." Grandma stood up before anyone else did, sat down her napkin, looked at my mother, and said, "You should be ashamed." If she had screamed, it would have been easier for them. They could have called it emotion, drama, age, stress.
But Grandma's voice was quiet.
Controlled, murderous in the way only old women can be when they are finally done protecting the wrong people.
My mother went pale.
"Mom, please."
"No," Grandma said, "not one more word about photos. Not one more word about balance.
You put your own daughter at the back of her wedding so that one could play bride again." Again, that word mattered because suddenly the room understood this was not a misunderstanding, not a one-night lapse in judgment, not some unfortunate collision of ego and champagne.
It was history. My father tried one last time to grab control of the room. This is a family matter.
Grandma looked at him like she had been waiting 40 years to stop humoring him. Snorts, "It was until you made it public."
No one moved.
Vanessa was still talking, but the energy had gone out of her. Not because she was finished, because no one was helping her shape it into something pretty anymore. She sounded exactly like what she was, a woman in a white dress at someone else's wedding, screaming about how she deserved the better seat. Ryan squeezed my hand once.
That brought me back into my own body. I looked at Talia. "I want them gone." She nodded, already moving. That part had consequences faster than I expected. Wedding venues are like hospitals and airports. Once the staff understands where the actual problem is, events move very quickly. 2 managers came over. Calm voices, professional smiles. My father objected. My mother cried. Vanessa called me pathetic. None of it mattered. They were escorted out in under 4 minutes. I know because the videographer, who later sent me Clear's Throat, the raw footage by accident, along with the editor gallery, had timestamps on everything. 4 minutes and 12 seconds from Grandma saying, "You should be ashamed," to the ballroom doors closing behind my parents and sister. When the doors shut, the whole room exhaled, not delicately, like people who had been holding their breath through an ugly truth and were relieved it finally had a shape. Then something happened I had not expected. Cousin Mia started clapping, not loud, just once. Then Aunt Janine did. Then 2 tables joined in, then more. Not for me performing, not for the fight, for the removal of the lie. I cried then, not from humiliation. Relief. Ryan kissed my forehead in the middle of the ballroom while my makeup artist, who had stayed late to help bustle my dress, pushed tissues into my hands and muttered, "Good for you." Like she meant it from somewhere personal. We still had dinner. That surprises people when I tell them the story. But I had already paid for the food, the music, the candles, the room, the flowers, the chairs, the cake, and half the emotional labor in that family for most of my life. I was not handing over my wedding to the same people who nearly turned it into a pageant for Vanessa. So, we stayed. The head table was reset. My place card returned. My husband sat beside me. Grandma took my mother's empty seat. That was the best part. Not vengeance, not spectacle, just the right woman finally sitting in the chair that should have gone to someone loyal. At dessert, Grandma leaned toward me and said, "You know, your sister only ever looked better in pictures because she never had to hold still long enough for anyone to see what she was." I laughed so hard I nearly ruined my lipstick. The fallout came fast after that. By morning, 3 cousins had already texted me versions of the same message. "I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." My Aunt Janine sent a longer one, admitting this was not the first time Vanessa had been allowed to turn one of my life events into her stage. Apparently, she had warned my mother 2 days before the wedding that the white dress was a bad idea. Mom told her Elena always gets tense before big moments. That line told me everything I needed to know. My father did not call for 2 weeks. Then he sent one email. No apology. Just "You embarrassed us in front of everyone." I deleted it. My mother sent 5. The first blamed stress. The second blamed the planner.
The third blamed Vanessa's spiraling self-esteem.
The fourth said she missed me.
The fifth was the closest thing to truth. It said, "I think I spent your whole life assuming you would absorb what your sister could not."
I saved that one. Vanessa tried hardest. She called Ryan first from a new number. He blocked it.
Then she messaged me on social media with 3 paragraphs about how I had used one moment to destroy her relationship with our family. Apparently Luke, yes, she had a boyfriend the whole time, which she had conveniently failed to remember while propositioning my husband, saw the wedding footage after one of her friends sent him a clip.
He broke up with her 3 days later. I did not reply to that either. What was there to say?
She had spent years treating every room like a mirror. Eventually, one reflected back. As for me, I stayed no contact for 11 months. Not because I was waiting for the perfect apology, because peace felt so different from my old normal that I wanted to learn it without interference. No family group chat, no holiday rearrangements, no being told to be the mature one, no shrinking so other people could feel properly adored. On my first anniversary, Ryan and I went back to Asheville for the weekend. Same town, different hotel. We had breakfast on a patio in the sun, and halfway through his coffee, he looked at me and said, "You smile faster now."
That stayed with me because he was right. Cutting them off did not make me colder. It made me easier to find. Hi everyone. Thank you for being here.
If that had happened to you, would you have grabbed the microphone, too, or would you have walked out and led the whole night? And once your family showed you they would rather stage your wedding than respect it, would you ever let them back into your life?
Tell me in the comments.
And if this story stayed with you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
I'd love to see you in the next.